Ladies and gentlemen, the American Jury and Bulldog Nation and Kentuckians, I would like to explain my faith to you. And the reason why I do it is those of you that faith and Christian issues are really, really important to you, I'm going to share my faith with you for that purpose. I believe most people do not care about it. And I want you to know that it rubs me the wrong way when candidates inject that, because it's almost, in my opinion, we're all sinners, not saints. And to inject that, these political candidates try to make it look like they're saints, and they're not. One in particular, which I've called out on it. So for those of you that your faith is the most important thing to you, I want to share with you my faith and my journey in faith, okay? First off, I was born the middle child of 11 children to Charles and Mary Sue Deters. And we were very Catholic. I was baptized Catholic, first communion, first confession, went to confirmation. I went to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, Catholic college. I mean, as Catholic as you can get. All of you who are Catholics, I think, I could be wrong, I think I'm the only Catholic candidate, if that matters to you, all right? Now, I want you to know, I used to go to church every Sunday. I know all the Catholic traditions, all those things. There was this night changed my life. There was an ecumenical, which means all the churches coming together, at St. Cecilia Church one Thanksgiving that my wife, Mary, and I went to. And speaking at that event was a guy named Randy McCafferty, who is now an Air Force chaplain and one of my closest and dearest friends. Has maintained since that night. And he spoke unbelievable. And he intertwined history with his faith. He was the pastor of Independence Christian Church. And we met afterwards. And from that day until now, great friends. If you read The Butcher of Pakistan, he is the one where I was so desperate and forlorn, sought counsel, and God might even save my life. So I started attending his church some. Now, I was teaching Sunday school at St. Cecilia, 5th and 6th graders. And by the way, I was such a great Sunday school teacher that the parents of these kids told me, I did it for 2 years, told me their kids learned more in my class than all the other classes before them, these 5th and 6th graders. What a compliment. The kids loved it. I made it fun. Like, for example, 10 Commandments was one of the things that I was supposed to teach them. And I went through all the nuances of that with stories, real stories, my own life, everything else. We played Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with dollar bills to quiz them on things. It was great. These parents told me those kids look forward to coming to that Sunday school. I mean, that was great. I ended up getting fired by Father Burchide at St. Cecilia for 2 reasons. I know this was it. I played a biography documentary of Martin Luther King because I wanted to, it was right before Martin Luther King, and I wanted to educate them a little about Martin Luther King. I think that, you know, for Catholic doctrine, that drove them nuts. You can't make this up. I got a letter from Father Paul Burchide where he told me that my wife, and all my children would be going to hell if I continued to attend that Christian church. Would that rub me the wrong way? You're darn right it did. I appealed to the bishop. Father Ryan, the late Father Ryan, came to me. Father Ryan agreed with me, said the bishop agreed with me, but they let it go. Now, this is a great story. So, my first wife, Lisa, gets cancer. And when you get cancer, all the churches start praying for you, and you start going to all of them. Man, I went in 1998 to every possible denomination you could think of. Pentecostal, Baptist, Christian, Unitarian church, whatever it's called. I mean, we went to every possible church. And you know what? I enjoyed them. The Catholic Mass is a routine thing. By the way, I have nothing against the Catholic Mass. I have nothing against Catholics. I still consider myself Catholics. a Catholic. But that was a big deal to me. Lisa dies, and when you have something like that, that really is a big moment. You're like, you reevaluate everything, you know? And I actually met with Bishop and talked to him. This is going to make you all laugh. At the time, I was serious. I look back on it, and it makes me laugh. I'm going to share a funny story with you. I actually considered being a priest. If your wife dies, you can actually be a priest. And I talked to the bishop about Bishop Munch. And I talked to him about it. And he was great. He looked at me and said, Eric, you don't want to be a priest. and after thinking about it, I said, yeah, he's right. I mean, the celibacy thing, all that stuff, I didn't. But I mean, I read the Bible in 1988, cover to cover, twice, okay? So I get back in the real world. Once you have a tragedy, it can suck you in, but then real life takes you. So what I want to tell you about my faith is I do not attend church every Sunday. Now, people that do that, that's wonderful, okay? You might say, well, why don't you attend church every Sunday? Well, whether it's right or wrong, I've kind of adopted the Christian idea of your personal relationship with God. And I want you to know that I have a solid personal relationship with God. I talk to God all the time. I thank God. I pray to God for help. I have a good relationship with God. Yesterday, he received repeated thank yous. Now, let me tell you about my view of faith, okay? I am probably, if you wanted to pigeonhole me, very much a deist, like the Founding Fathers were. And my favorite phrase that came out of the Founding Fathers is divine providence. They use it a lot. I love the phrase divine providence. And I can tell you how divine providence has came into my life repeatedly, absolutely repeatedly, okay? Now, I also believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that there is, in fact, historical proof that Jesus lived. I believe in the resurrection. I believe all those things. However, be very candid with you, and I think this applies. It doesn't mean that there's not moments where you have doubts. And by the way, Bishop Munch talked to me about that. People with faith, priests, bishops, saints have had doubts. By the way, the communion of saints, because of the history of them, I really, really love. When my little brother Richard was like 6 or 7 years old, Bishop Ackerman, who was his his namesake, bought him a 3-volume set of saints. I read those saint books to Richard every night until they were done. I got to learn the saints. By the way, Saint Cecilia, I visited her grave in the catacombs in Rome when I was 13 on the Latin school bike trip. One of my highlights, Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music. By the way, the Foo Fighters have a song called Saint Cecilia, which is outstanding. So that's my faith. I believe abortion is murder. I really do. I struggle with the real life situations that people have to make when it comes to that, as it relates especially to those 3 exceptions: rape, incest, life of the mother. We know that those are extremely rare occurrences. And as I've said before, that if somebody is in fact raped or incest, and they, by the way, I believe life begins at conception, but there's no question in my mind that if they start carrying a viable baby, you can't, 15 weeks, you can't abort it. And I definitely believe in the life of the mother. I mean, I'm not going to step in the shoes of that couple if they got to choose between a mom dying and leaving other kids behind or whatever. Last but not least, I don't think there's a place for it in politics. I think there's a place for it in our personal lives. I believe that prayer in schools, public or otherwise, I'm all for it. I mean, we need God. Taking God out of this America. Remember, my 3 pillars, America, was founded on God, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and capitalism. And I believe that. So I'm a sinner, not a saint, but I have faith. I will never, ever bother you in your worship of faith. I will support your worship of faith. And I just want everybody to know that I do say, what would Trump do all the time in my battles? What would Nick Saban do? What would Bill Belichick do? Lincoln? And I also do, what would Jesus do? And I want to remind all of you, that Jesus was tough. Jesus had a temper. Jesus was not milquetoast. No, I'm not Jesus. But I can tell you right now, I cannot speak for other candidates in this race. I cannot speak for other candidates in this race. But I can assure all of you, isn't the number one thing about being a Christian is how you treat others? How you treat others. And I can assure you, nobody treats people any better than I do. Day in, day out. Caring, loving, empathy. My battles are against people who deserve the battle. I never pick on, bully, ever. Innocence. Never. So there you have it. A little long, but those of you that care about faith, now you got mine.